It's Radio Free 501c, the podcast of Rogue Tulips Consulting. I'm your host, Cecilia Sapp, and we're so excited to be back for Season 6 and continue bringing you outstanding ideas and thought leaders and different ways of thinking. So don't forget to subscribe because you're not going to want to miss any of it. This week I'm joined by first-time guest and first-time ever podcast guest, Mariel Solomon. And she's here to talk with us about the topic of learning the language of associations. It's May 13th, 2024. Welcome to episode 240. How did we get that far? Hey everybody, it's Monday, May 13th, and that means it's time for another episode of Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting. Hi, I'm your host, Cecilia Supp. I'm the principal and founder of Rogue Tulips, and thanks so much for joining us for this episode as we continue our celebration and recognition of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month in partnership with the AANHPI Group at ASAE. This is our third episode and our third guest. We're so excited. But before we jump into the rest of the episode, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to our global audience, wherever you may be. And thanks again to everyone for signing in this week and listening. So this week, our topic is the language of associations. And we not only have a first-time guest on our Radio Free 501c show, but a first-time podcast ever. So really happy to welcome Mariel Solomon. And she's going to talk with us about how she had to learn the language of associations and the different layers of that. But Mariel, thank you so much for joining me. Before we jump into the topic, would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me on today. I am Mariel Solomon. I'm a speech language pathologist and association professional. I'm an associate director at the American Speech Language Hearing Association, better known as ASHA. ASHA is a professional association and a national credentialing body for over 200,000 audiologists, speech language pathologists, and audiology and speech language pathology assistants. So it's a lot of people and a lot of staff to help serve those members. I'm one of, I believe, almost 300 staff at this point. And at ASHA, I've been there for 7 years. This is my second role there. And my role is focused on something called the practice portal on ASHA's website. And we are focused on reviewing and developing and updating clinical and professional resources to facilitate clinical decision-making.
Wow, that sounds like a really great job and really interesting. And wow, I never realized ASHA had that many people on staff. I've known a lot of people who have worked there over the years. So it's like, wow, never knew that.
Yeah, and there are some times where, I've been there for 7 years and it's the first time meeting someone from a different team.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, do you all, I know we're digressing a little from the topic, but do you all work in the same building most of the time?
Most of the time, yes. Right now we are on a purpose-driven hybrid model. So, we're not a set standard of when to come into the office, but we work collaboratively, remotely, and then also when we have a reason to come into the office, we all come into the office.
Oh, that's great. And there's a great tip and example for our listeners, because a lot of associations and other types of nonprofits are still trying to figure exactly how to keep doing that, or whether or not they should keep doing that. And I love that. Purpose-driven. How did you say that? Purpose-driven?
Yes, purpose-driven hybrid model.
Hybrid model. I like that. Okay, purpose-driven hybrid model.
And it's been a really great experience, and it seems like my colleagues are very happy with it. I'm happy with it as well.
Well, and I think that's a great segue into our actual topic, the language of associations. And who better than a speech language pathologist to help us understand language, right? So,
yes.
what were, I guess, some of the first things you noticed about the language of associations being different?
Yeah, I first came to ASHA. I was a clinical speech and language pathologist, so I was working in schools with kids. So it was just a big shift in just overall functioning. As an SLP, I was focused on, clinical language, those acronyms, clinical acronyms, and then coming to the association world, it was more business, corporate oriented. So it was a whole different set of acronyms. So I think that was the first biggest hurdle, was trying to figure out, what does this acronym mean? I don't know if you ever found that, word salad kind of issue.
That's actually a good question for me because I've been doing this so long. It's hard for me to remember if I had that. I probably did. I have spent, other than a couple of brief stints working in law firms before I moved to the Washington, D.C. area, I've pretty much been in nonprofit management the entire time. So since the late 80s.
Mhm.
So I know there were things like, I used to work at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and I supported a manager who created a book on workers' compensation. So yeah, there were some of those acronyms. And then moving into association management proper, and what I mean by that is actually getting into the management side of what is it like to run an association, is because at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I did a lot of support work and then moved into policy and lobbying work. So I was issue oriented as opposed to management oriented. And then I went on to another organization, the American Corporate Counsel Association, which is now the Association for Corporate Counsel. And there I got more into the association management side, and just was like, oh wow, I think I found my calling. I really like this.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, but there are a lot of acronyms and you do need to learn them. And then the problem with acronyms is that, you could have like an acronym that's ABC and it means two or three different things. So there's
Right,
like,
exactly.
yeah, and a lot of the associations use acronyms for their groups. So there's like ABC, which is Association Builders and Contractors, but then there's also like the American Broadcasting Corporation, which is
Mhm.
ABC Television. So it can get a little confusing sometimes,
Yes.
when you're trying to figure out, what do all these acronyms actually mean, or which ABC are you talking about?
Yes, yes.
It's
So
like,
Google was my friend, and also my colleagues as well, to figure out what that certain acronym meant.
that's
And
funny.
then coming from the clinical world as well, I didn't realize just how large the association industry and community was.
Mm.
I knew of ASHA because, that's how I got certified as an SLP, and that's how, and SLP is a acronym for speech and language pathologist, by
I
the
was
way.
going to say, there you go, acronym.
So, um, as an SLP, I knew of ASHA, but didn't realize the other associations out there. And there's pretty much an association for everything.
Yeah.
And with that, also, there's so many moving parts to make an association successful and functioning. I almost think of it as a watch, because on the surface, it looks very polished and smooth, and it's working. But then on the background, there's so many different gears that use it, like membership and accounting, or digital communications, PR, all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, there is a lot. I really like that analogy, that it's like a watch. It's very smooth on the outside, but if you take the back off, oh my gosh, what is
Yes.
going on in there? That's really funny. Did When you joined ASHA, now you came from your specific professional training as a speech language pathologist into association management, and that can be a bit of a shock. So when you
Mhm.
joined ASHA, do they have any sort of association management onboarding for people who are specialists?
There was onboarding in terms of what was available at the organization,
Mhm.
and they do support professional development, and that professional development can be geared towards either the clinical or the association management side.
Mhm.
But I really learned more about association management through my colleagues, and actually getting involved with ASAE.
Oh, interesting. So have you participated in any ASAE committees or councils?
I'm right now, I'm a member of the Young Professionals Advisory Committee,
Mhm.
and I am also a member of the Asian American Pacific Islander, or Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Advisory Group.
That's a long name.
It is.
So, when Kristen Trong was on it in late April to kick off AANHPI month, we were actually trying to figure out a way we could say that acronym like a word. And we were just like, no, it doesn't sound right. Just
Yeah, it
say
just doesn't work.
AANHPI. It's like it's very difficult to pronounce. But I think that's great. I obviously am a big believer in participating and joining and volunteering. I was once very active at ASAE for about 10 years. Now I just do ad hoc volunteer stuff, but the problem I think with any organization, this is no slam on any specific organization. So again, audience, save the angry postcards. I'm not slamming anyone. I think it's difficult for any membership association to have enough slots for everybody who wants to participate as a formal volunteer to do that. So I think one of the great things about ASAE is we do have collaborate and we can do ad hoc stuff. So like we can start a group for association professionals who like cats, and we can all do whatever we want with that without actually being on a council or putting stress on the staff at ASAE. So I think that that's always a challenge. And I think I love that ASHA is a big supporter of professional development, because a lot of associations don't think about that fully enough, in my opinion. Again, not bashing anyone, it's my opinion, because we get caught up in the day-to-day of what we're doing. And we're like, well, we got to get ready for conference, got to get ready for the board meeting, the members need something. And we don't stop and think, how can we best help our staff, especially new staff to the profession? They're specialists. Let's get them in and let's get them some education. And there's lots of different options out there. ASA has courses, of course. The Nonprofit Leadership Alliance has courses. So those are two great places that you can get some other education and learn what the heck all these crazy acronyms actually mean.
Right.
So what did you, and this is one of those, not so much, it's definitely not a gotcha question, but it's one of those questions where we're just like, I really don't know, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Was there an acronym that comes to your mind that like when you first started and you're just like, what does this mean? I have to go ask somebody. What was there one that just jumps out at you?
I don't know if one jumps out at me. I think it was mostly the ones that were policy acronyms that I was thinking, I can't even guess what that is. And it's, yeah, I don't think there's one single acronym that comes to mind. And and that may be on purpose. I may have blocked it out.
Yeah, really. I know I do that too. It's like, I don't remember that. I don't recall. You can always plead the fifth too if
Right.
you're desperate. But so with a lot of things, especially language, and you know this better than me, I'm a writer and a communicator, but you're actually a speech language pathologist. You actually study language. I just use it. But with language, there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of context that sometimes isn't clear to the audience, to the person you're speaking to. And some of that's background, different ways of thinking, but also like within an association specifically, there's different levels. So there's staff speak and C-suite speak and board speak and member speak. So what were some of the things you noticed along the way, those nuances about language within an association environment?
That's a good question. I think with the nuances with language, language is more than just the words we speak. Like you said, it's the language on paper, the words that we write, it's even our body language and our facial expression. So there's so much that can be communicated without even speaking. And with that, I think with member speak, especially, now we're focused on being plain language and making sure that it's easy to understand. I think before it was really academic based and really academic language, $5 words, when we realized that at the end of the day, our members are tired and don't want to read and think about what do these words mean in a sentence, and it's better just to say what it is we want to say rather than trying to make it an elaborate sentence.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I think, especially if you're dealing with volunteers, because they're fitting it in extra, you really want to just be short, direct, to the point. And I know when I used to work with volunteer leaders early in my career, I would communicate mostly by email at that point. And so I would have to give them a lot of information, but I learned, well, if I bold the one important sentence in every paragraph, all they have to do is read the bold sentence and they get it. If they want to go back and read the rest, they can. But just that message. And I actually had a volunteer leader when I worked at the American Academy of Otolaryngology say, "You've not lived till you've read one of Cecilia's emails," because I did, this like design thinking of email messaging. So it's really something we have to think about from the other perspective, like the end user. So it's sort of like when people design software, they have to think about, well, what's it look like to the person who's using it on the other end, not what it looks like to us. And I think language is like that as well. And it's really, I think, the fact that we all come from a different place. It doesn't matter if we're all born in the US. You and I were born here. You were born in the United States, and we're from different parts of the country, and different parts of the country are different, and that comes back to like chapter relations, component relations, because every part of the country is a little bit different. So wherever your chapters are, you got to learn their language. So there's so many layers of language in association management. And when you and I were prepping for this episode, you had mentioned that you found it very interesting that leadership language was even a little more different. So I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on that.
Sure. With leadership, when I first came into the association world, I thought of leadership as a very traditional mindset. It's authoritative. And that might be coming from how I grew up. Also, it's that leaders are the authority, and you have to listen and don't question. But what I found with actually in associations, and maybe this is just how things are trending now, is that leadership is more of a collaboration with other people, and it's working together, and leadership can be at every level. It's not just the title that someone has. And that's something that I found to have. And I think with leadership also, the word vulnerability comes to mind as well, because I'm a big fan of Berne Brown, and she's a leader in that kind of mindset. But really being able to say, I don't know something, or what do you think? I think that shows some kind of vulnerability that makes leadership work, or make leaders better leaders.
Now, you are not the first person, and I'm sure you will not be the last, who has mentioned to me Berne Brown. I have not read any of her books, and everyone told, oh, you have to read Atlas of the Heart. So which one of her books do you like?
I really liked Dare to Lead.
Okay.
And she has podcasts as well. But Dare to Lead talks about a different perspective of leadership. And I think that's something that I do take to heart when I think about myself as a leader. When it's hard to think of myself as a leader, but I think I do want to go that path.
Oh, so you want to like continue your leadership journey and maybe move up into like a C-suite position, maybe?
I don't know about C-suite.
I know. Yeah, that's a very different level.
Yeah, I know. I know that in terms, I lost my thought. Hold on.
Okay. Well, so we were talking about leadership,
Yeah.
and were thinking maybe you want to, well, and to your point though, Mariel, you do not need to have a position to be a leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. You can just be a leader. So how do you lead from where you are right now?
There are a few ways. I am a co-chair for the internal ASHA diversity team. So we are focused on supporting an inclusive environment of ASHA staff from all different backgrounds, and also providing learning opportunities and dialogue for ASHA staff as well. Um, and I also am a leader right now with the Young Professionals Advisory Group with a programming initiative. So those are more ways that I'm trying to lead. Being on this podcast is, I think, a part of that as well. Um, you know, trying to make change, I think, is my real objective.
No, I think that's an excellent objective because it's not that what's happened in the past is all bad or all good, but we need to change because we need to evolve to
Mhm.
respond to the world that we're in right now. So I support that 110%. I think it's great. And you're right, being on a podcast is leading because you're getting the word out and messaging people about the different things that you think are important and how you want to help people learn and move forward. So as in this month, May, we're celebrating AANHPI month. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts on this recognition month that you would like to share.
I'm glad that it exists. And it's really been, for me at least, it's been a journey because as I was growing up, I say I compartmentalized my Filipino American heritage. It was at home with my family, and I didn't think I needed that to. It was easier for me to compartmentalize that as I navigated the world. Um, so I kind of ran away from it for a little while until I got older and I moved to the DC area. And the DC area is so diverse too, and it's a wonderful area to be in. Um, and I found a lot of people who looked like me, and I realized, why was I running away from it? I can lean into it and really embrace it. And that's something that I learned with associations as well, that I, wanted to see more people who looked like me. So, and then I found the AANHPI Association Advisory Group. Um, and it was a great community to find. And this month is a great way to showcase the different contributions that this very diverse community has provided. Um, and it's to, continue lifting up those voices that we are not always inclined to listen to.
Well, I think well said. I also think as just an observer of our profession from a lot of different angles, I really think that a lot of people in the AANHPI group tend to be quieter and maybe they feel like, well, I can just kind of stay in the background. But that's why I was so glad to be invited to partner with AANHPI Group from ASAE this month because I think everybody's voice needs to be heard. I think everybody's light needs to shine. If everybody shows their light, then the world gets a lot brighter. And I do think there are groups that feel that they can't speak up, that maybe other people don't want to hear their voices. And I think, we're all people and we should all hear each other. We should listen or at least try to listen to each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't always sink in, unfortunately, but no, I think this is great. And I'm really glad to see all the activities that AANHPI is also doing. I know there's a new LinkedIn group that just
Yes.
launched this month and that seems really active already. And there's some events coming up at ASA annual meeting in Cleveland. Is there anything else coming up you'd like to share?
Uh, I think there are more podcast episodes coming out for those in the advisory group. I'm not sure of. I think we might have a webinar coming out, but I think that's still in development. But the AANHPI LinkedIn group is now live, and you can find that with the AANHPI Association community. And we hit the ground running at the start of May.
That's fantastic. I'm really glad. I need to join that group. I don't think I've joined it yet. I've been reading, but I have to do that. But there's so many things. There's so many groups out there I want to keep up with and just like kind of at least keep my ear to the ground, as the saying goes, and see what everybody's up to. So that's great. And I'm really looking forward to ASA annual in Cleveland and attending some of the events that AANHPI is hosting. But before we close this episode, this has been a wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed it. But May is not just AANHPI month. It's another month as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is. As you can see on my background, it is National Speech Language Hearing Month. And that month is to really increase awareness for folks who have conditions or disorders that create communication difficulties and the role that ASHA members play in helping people manage those communication difficulties or repair those communication breakdowns. So it's not, with audiology and speech language pathology, it's not as well known as maybe being a doctor or being a policeman or firefighter. But we are out there, and you most likely have known someone who has had a stroke or learning difficulties, and the audiologists and speech language pathologists are really an active role in the care of that person.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you for reminding everybody of that. I have an elderly mother-in-law that we help take care of, and she had to have some speech therapy after she had a surgery last year. So she had a lot of different, occupational therapy and physical therapy, and so now she hangs out with all her friends because she got better. So,
and that's great, and that's what audiologists and SLPs really want for their clients or their patients, is to be able to participate in life again, in whatever way that works for them.
That's great. So May is an exciting month. It's not just spring, and it's AANHPI month. It's speech language hearing month. It's a month for everybody. So let's try to keep all that in mind and take care of our hearing and our, practice speaking without, biting your tongue or something. I tend to, like, my jaw tends to get tight sometimes, and I'm like, blah, blah, blah.
Self-care for your voice as well, since you're a podcaster.
Yeah. That's true. So, and I guess I hadn't thought of it that way. I've been trying to find a speech coach to make my voice sound better. I have not had any luck with that yet, probably because I had to put it on hold. But when I was trying to find a speech coach, it just helped me speak better, because you know this better than me, Mariel. A lot of language, it's breathing and keeping the muscles loose in the throat and the jaw, and not having too much dairy before a presentation.
Oh yes, those rules, staying hydrated, and vocal exercises to keep things loose and warmed up.
That's great. Well, and I am a jaw clencher at night, so I have one of those little. Okay, it's probably like way too much information. Okay, so I have an NTI. So I graduated up from a bite guard to an NTI about 4 or 5 years ago. Because because it's jaw clenching as opposed to
Mhm.
teeth grinding.
Mm.
So anyway, okay, yeah, audience, I know you're going, what the hell is she talking about this time? Okay.
I think there are more people out there who relate than not.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. But a lot of people don't feel comfortable talking about it. And they're probably
Mhm.
like, why doesn't she go back to talking about being a geisha girl? I don't know. But anyway, that was from another episode a long time ago. Anyway, Mariel, this has been so great. I am really am glad that you were able to be here today and talk about the language of associations. When I wrap up an episode, I always like to ask my guests, what's the one thought you'd like the audience to take away today? And how can they get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more about speech language pathology, AANHPA, I'm going to start over, AANHPI month or speech language hearing month?
Yes, with one thing to take away, I think, is that careers can change and the path isn't linear, and to be open to that change. And you can find me on LinkedIn and most likely through the association community. So with the AANHPI Association Community Group, follow that page, and then you can see me posting a lot as well. And to learn more about National Speech Language Hearing Month, you can go to ASHA.org. And I believe there's a website for National Speech Language Hearing Month as well, but I'm not sure of the exact website.
It's okay. That's what Google's for.
Yes, exactly.
Google it, folks. You can't make Mariel do all the work. No, this is great. Thank you again, everyone. I want to thank my guest, Mariel Solomon from ASHA, who's here helping us celebrate and recognize AANHPI Month, as well as Speech Language Hearing Month. Two very important things that we should keep in mind. And I want to thank everybody for being here. We have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our brand new updated website at roguetulips.com. If you're interested in getting the CAE later this year in the fall, sign up on our Notify Me forum to find out when classes are going to launch for the December exam. And we also offer courses for continuing education, and our flagship course is our ethics course. So check that out. It happens almost every month. So on behalf of Mariel and myself, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.